And I wanted to begin by thanking everyone for supporting me in this role. I'm honoured to hold it, and with your help, I will continue to work hard to make sure the party moves forward, growing in support and getting the message out to the UK that there is an alternative to Tory viciousness, Lib Dem cowardice and Labour's laziness in opposition. And the alternative is us. To do so, we must occasionally look at ourselves to remind ourselves who we are, what we stand for, and why. In the Green Party, we all begin from one single point. We will not do nothing. We will not sit by like the Lib Dems and Labour and watch as the seeds of our own environmental destruction are sown. We cannot, as the Tories are doing, deliberately sow those seeds, as they are blasting poisons into the ground and in order to burn carbon-based materials. Another great victory for the greenest government ever. We cannot, we will not, sit by and watch as humans cause global temperatures to increase 5 degrees centigrade, as the ice caps melt, millions of acres of rainforest, farmland, and hundreds of species of animals and plants are wiped out, and the human race is decimated by flooding and freak weather events. We cannot, we will not, lose the advances we've made as a species in medicine, information and technology, and we will not allow people to die simply because James Delingpole doesn't like the way wind turbines look. One thing is very clear. Capitalism simply can't deliver environmental protection. It's not designed to. It's a system to maximise profit, full stop. Capitalism has no means of registering a falling forest or a species going extinct. All it knows about or cares about is the bottom line. Now, that's not to say that capitalists aren't concerned about the environment. Many are. It's just that they are part of a system which encourages selfishness and stops people working together to overcome their challenges. And in a system where the only aim is to make as much money as possible, as fast as possible, what's the point in planning for the future? Capitalism actively discourages the cooperation and long-term planning that we need now more than ever. But there's more to it, even than climate catastrophe we face, and which capitalism will deliver. We're right to stand and defend the planet, but must also ask how we want a world fit for our children to be run. And I think that we want a planet in which people are kind, loving and caring. If we aim to save the world, we must make sure that we deserve it. The capitalist model, based as it is on competition rather than cooperation, on selfishness and inequality rather than everyone benefiting from the efforts of everybody else, is failing. It has failed. It's failed us environmentally, socially and economically. Yes, a system defined by its attitude to capital has failed us economically. And there's a very simple reason. Kenneth Boulding, husband of LCM Building and renowned economist in his own right, said that anyone who believes in infinite growth of anything physical on a physically finite planet is either a madman or an economist. I'd actually suggest it's possible to be both. But the comment actually underlines the contradictions of an unregulated capitalist system. It relies on growth, but the more it grows, the fewer resources are available for continued growth. Ultimately, capitalism will eat itself, and us too. Because the more it grows by exploiting non-renewable resources and societal inequality, the closer we come to a crash and an outpouring of violent social disorder. Global capitalism doesn't care. It really doesn't. It doesn't care about the conditions of Chinese sweatshops, or oil spills, or poison leaching into the water supplies. It only cares about the bottom line and keeping things cheap. Clothes and electronic goods, and motor cars. Apparently we don't care either, or too many of us don't, because we keep on buying this stuff. So the rich keep on getting richer and the poor keep on getting poorer. Is this the world we want for our children? Is it the world we want for ourselves? It's not just that we can't protect our environment, our lifeline on which we rely completely for everything we are and do. We can't even run an economy on it. There's no escaping the fact that by any sensible analysis, monetarism has failed. In 1979, when I was but a strip of a lad, Keynesianism was dropped as a failure by the Tory party. It had been the generally accepted wisdom for 33 years. Those 33 years were characterised in the US and countries of Western Europe by rising living standards and reducing inequality. Monetarism has now had 35 years in which to prove itself. It's a period in which unemployment has shot up from 990,000 to 3 million before steadying at just over 2 million. We have lost ownership of public transport, which has, as a result, is more expensive and less reliable than ever, despite receiving more taxpayers' money than at any point in history. We have a privatised national power system, which receives massive public subsidy and issues higher bills than ever before. And we're now facing the steady creep of privatised healthcare, education, and even the Royal Mail. And who has benefited? Not those whom the system has robbed of their jobs because the government keeps on cutting social security. Not those whose full-time employment has been slashed to part-time or zero-hours contracts as they're earning less than ever before. It's not even those who work full-time, who the government claims to support, because the last 5 years are the first in more than a century in which wages in this country have actually fallen compared to the cost of living. The government says that it's making work pay, but it's making work pay less. monetarism has made people poorer, while stripping away the affordable transport, affordable power, reliable water services that made life livable. On top of all that, monetarism, a system which prides itself on its hard-headed approach to the economy, has delivered the worst economic crash in 80 years. Even now, the government is celebrating the fact that the economy is growing. And it's certainly true that the Office for National Statistics has reported growth of a minuscule 0.7% in the last quarter, but this growth is based on rising house prices, which was the source of the last unsustainable boom and the direct cause of the last crash, which left millions of people poorer, without jobs or hope for the future. The government seems to have forgotten that the system of ever-increasing house prices collapsed just a few years ago, and it's trying it again. It's returned to a belief in infinite growth in a finite system. And we're expected to applaud this. It's the economics of the madhouse. Not only have the lunatics taken over the asylum, they're selling it off brick by brick. And they haven't realised that when it's gone, they'll have nowhere left to go. And on the subject of housing, one of monetarists' worst legacies was its housing policy, right to buy. Council housing had been a public service, enabling people to move around so they could work anywhere in the country by providing decent home for just as long as they needed it. But right to buy forced councils to sell off the houses they owned for less than the market value of those houses, and then it prohibited them from replacing them. The effects have been felt across the country. In Reading, for example, the council called a state of emergency because vital workers, litter collectors, street sweepers, teachers and nurses could not afford to live there anymore. We are all suffering due to the lack of decent, affordable social housing. And there's another unforgivable result of the great housing sell-off: homelessness. I've seen it on the streets of Brighton even. Under right to buy, 2 million houses were sold. How many families and individuals are now on the housing register, list of people waiting for somewhere decent to live? 2 million. The 6th richest country in the world, and 2 million families, around 5 million people, haven't got anywhere decent to live. Even this government has been forced to notice, and it's decided to free up housing for people who need it by fining people who already have houses if they have more rooms than they can sleep in each night. Like so many other elements of this government's welfare policy, there isn't even any point. Even if it was, even if it was fair to chase people from their homes, there are only enough 1- and 2-bedroom homes available for, would you believe, 4% of those that the government's taking money from. The choice for 96% of people judged to have too many bedrooms is to be fined or become homeless. Monetarism is an experiment, and it has failed on every single criterion. It has failed. It's failed me, it's failed you, and it's failed the vast majority of people in this country. And it's failed people around the world. And it's failing the environment on which we all rely. When the facts change, I change my mind, Keynes said. If only our government and other unimaginative, unintelligent governments all over the world were as wise as that. But Greens must do more than complain. It's too easy to complain. Anyone can sit on sidelines and snipe at the failures of others. It's especially easy to snipe at this coalition government, isn't it? But what's much harder is proposing workable solutions, persuading people we have done the thinking on these matters and winning them to our side. So the question is, what is the alternative? What alternative is there? What should we do? And it's a vital question, because next year we're aiming to get our 2 MEPs, Jean Lambert and Keith Taylor, re-elected. And of course to build our presence in the European Parliament. And after that we head into the 2015 general election, where we can and we must return Caroline Lucas to Parliament. And of course we want to increase our presence in the House of Commons as well. But the only way to do this is to get our message out there, to show the people there is an alternative to repeated failure, and that we are that alternative. We, the Green Party, are the only party which will get rid of the bedroom tax, the only party which will renationalise the railways, we are the only party with a genuine alternative to the failed monetarist experiment. A new system for the benefit of everyone in the country and the global environment, based on smaller scale local production, efficient low or no carbon transport, energy efficiency and investment in green technology and energy creation, creating new jobs, the reduction of waste and a real living wage which enables working people to live in comfort and security. We are the only party which stands for the people of this country, for everyone, regardless of wealth or of race. That's because we are the only party which recognise the urgent need for environmental protection and societal and economic restructuring. If we want the earth to continue to provide us with comfortable home and a comfortable environment, we must change the way our civilization operates. If we want to create a civilization based on justice and fairness to all, the first step is to encourage a respectful and nurturing attitude towards the one thing we all have in common: this earth. We are the only party which knows that infinite economic growth is not only impossible, it's totally unnecessary. We don't... Because that is a message that we need to get across. We don't need growth. Because permanently growing economy is wrong. Just one which guarantees a decent standard of living for all is what we need. We don't need to perform alchemy to create a new gold, because the raw materials we've relied on so far are running out. We just need to restructure society so everyone benefits. That restructure will not only mean everyone in society gains the rewards of society's achievements, because people in this country succeed together, it will deliver more money for the common good. For example, a financial transaction tax of just 0.05% will deliver £10 billion a year. We've seen the EU's lawyers raising objections to such a tax, but their concerns were not with the tax itself, rather than with the idea that only a small number of EU states would act together without the involvement of their fellow member states. Now, we can introduce a Robin Hood tax alone, or even better, with the whole of the EU. And we should. We can also save vast sums of money in other places. One quick example, a replacement for Trident. Instead of spending on unnecessary means to kill people, a symbolic toy to help certain politicians feel important, but serving absolutely no real purpose in the modern world. We could save £83.5 billion by simply not replacing it. Gandhi said, "The world has enough for everyone's need, but not enough for everyone's greed." None of the other parties seem to recognise this very obvious truth. We do. And we just need a chance to do something about it. We are the only party with an alternative to the culture of greed, environmental and social destruction in which we now live. We are not a better, kinder, neoliberal party. We are the better, fairer, kinder and smarter alternative to the failed neoliberal experiment. We are the future. We are all the future. Not just you, me, those of us in this room, but every man, woman and child across this country. And for all of us, the Green Party is the alternative. You are the alternative. We are the only alternative.